Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In today's video, we're going to discuss Rachel Lindsay's new book, and of course she's calling out different people, different scenarios, what producers made her do, and what it was like to deal with some of the drama within the house, some loose ends tied up as far as villains, and of course the thumbnail here, forced to keep a racist villain on the show, which is exactly what happened. Whether the show was complicit and knew about this villain's tweets beforehand, we really can't know for sure. There's no smoking gun evidence there, but obviously the show is no stranger to creating controversy, monetizing off of racial tension, other issues that exist in our country. So if anyone's accusing Rachel Lindsay of profiting off of selling her book and her story, I think we need to look inward and say, who's really profiting off of all of this? Disney is, ABC, The Bachelor. Okay, that's who's profiting off of, these types of dramatic storylines that they either create or expose in a world that does exist this way. Now, some people might say, hey, Rachel Lindsay, she's race baiting, or she's always making things about race. Those are some of the comments we see in the comment section. And that's a privileged way to think that someone else makes things about race. What that implies is that race isn't important to you because you might be on a side of privilege where you don't get followed around in a 7-Eleven or get pulled over for the crime of driving while being black, which is how other people's life exists. Being fearful of being pulled over, being fearful of showing up to a hotel or being followed around or missed, do you belong in here? These types of issues might not be a big deal to you or someone who looks like me, which is fair to live in that ignorant world where thinking race isn't a problem in our country. But for some people, it is, and it's worth addressing, and it's worth talking about, and it's worth championing people like Rachel Lindsay for sharing their story. So again, preemptively, I'm coming out hot today, preemptively. Before you comment, and I know you already did, Karen. I know Karen's a bad word. I have a sister named Karen. We love Karens. Deborah in Iowa. Before you comment there, Cassidy, let me tell you something. Think twice. That just because you don't have certain issues, that they don't exist. Okay, so we'll get into all that. And speaking about issues that shouldn't exist, it was called out yesterday on Reddit, and I have no problem sharing this Reddit post because I was tagged in it, my name's in it. What's up with all these Bachelor accounts promoting and defending Shanae? As we know, Shanae has made fun of Elizabeth for having ADHD, neurodiversity issues. We've talked about this extensively. They're specifically cherry picking yesterday's story where we talked about Shanae getting hacked or had she either got hacked by a Bachelor troll or a troll, or her Instagram, she had to shut it down because of all the death threats and comments she was getting. We know that her family was receiving comments regarding her character and being a villain on the show. And my video was taking the stance that nobody deserves the hate that comes their way, like family members. So I think I properly articulated my point there. With that said, we've already made multiple videos condemning the idea, the shaming of people that have brains that function in a different way than yours, which is what ADHD and neurodiversity is, people who think in a different way than what Shanae, what might be Shanae's way of thinking. So we've already addressed all of this. And I think the comment section spoke for itself, where people realized Dave's not addressing these things. You just decided to tune into a chapter she was disgusted, or he or she, I don't know who it was disgusted. And I tried to rationalize with the person. I tried to talk to them. I even sent them a private DM, no response there. It just seems to me like people would rather be outraged about conversations versus being productive. So the conversation wasn't productive. It didn't really end anywhere in a positive light. But I will say it is nice to have these conversations, because then other people can say that, hey, and you guys can be the judge yourself. Am I being rational? Am I being understanding? Am I being graceful to different sides of the argument? Or am I being disgusting in the way that I see the world? That's really up for you guys to decide. So let me know if you guys are truly confused and disgusted, or are you missing something? I'd love to know your thoughts. But that's where I stand on that. I'll continue to talk about it. I don't think Shanae's going to address or apologize for her statements until the women tell all, as we see Bachelor producers try to keep people from discussing it until they can monetize it. Again, if you don't like it, you better write into the producers, because they're the ones that are airing this slop. Okay? All right, folks, that's where we're at there. And of course, it's not to say that consequences shouldn't be met for Shanae. But I also I also understand how the system works. She's the villain. The villains are getting pretty brutal out there. And speaking of villains, we'll get into Rachel Lindsay's villains of the season. Rachel Lindsay's Miss Me With That book addresses Peter, Raven, Chris Harrison, and more. We've already discussed Rachel and Chris Harrison, so we're not going to discuss that in this video. But I've pulled a few snippets. But first, let's hear Rachel on the Off the Vine podcast with Caitlin Bristow.
So in Miss Me With That, you're going to get to see so much more of me where I get to tell my story. I'm in control. And you'll see that I'm so much more than what my, media persona may be or my brand may be from Bachelor Nation.
Yeah.
Maybe you have unanswered questions about things in Bachelor Nation. And as I say, everything will be addressed. You might not get the answer that you want, but it will be addressed. So in Miss Me With That, you're going to get to see so much more of me where I get to tell my story. I'm in control. And you'll see that I'm so much more than what my media persona may be or my brand may be from Bachelor Nation.
Yeah.
Maybe you have unanswered questions about things in Bachelor Nation. And as I say, everything will be addressed. You might not get the answer that you want, but it will be addressed. So in Miss Me With That, you're
looking at some of the greatest of all time right here. Rachel Lindsay and Caitlin Bristow. And they have generated many a clicks on this channel or in the news. They are highly controversial in different ways where I think it's authentic that they are both so openly sharing their viewpoints. They've made careers out of being positive voices within their communities, talking about racial issues, talking about sex positivity. They're both just out there rocking it. All right. So here are three different segments. Rachel mentions regretting, and on the third one, I'll share the Lee storyline where she calls out the racist kind of contestant that's stuck around on the show. And his tweets were racist. He did apologize for them and admit that they were racist and bigoted and sexist and homophobic. There's a lot going on there, which is okay. People can grow. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it's important to call it out. He can grow. Maybe he did. Maybe he felt like he was overly, put on the spot and he doubled down on his issues. I don't know where he stands today, but he could grow. That is a potential for people. Regretting keeping Peter over Eric Bigger. So here's Peter in the center, Eric Bigger on the right. Lindsay revealed that she briefly met Eric Bigger at the gym shortly before production began, and she didn't tell anyone because she didn't want him to have a disadvantage. While she had feelings for Bigger, she also had concerns that he had never had a serious girlfriend and also questioned why he hadn't dated many black women in the past. Again, which is something you might consider if you're trying to find your the love of your life. Lindsay wrote that her only regret as a bachelorette was bringing Peter Krause to the final two instead of Bigger. I already knew my choice was Brian, and given the depth of Eric's feelings, I felt it was wrong to have him stay. If I had known, however, how obsessed the fandom was with Peter and how ugly their reaction to my not choosing him would be, I would have sent him home before Eric. She added that she felt more strongly about Peter than Bigger, but felt Peter would be less hurt than Eric when I ultimately chose Brian. So that's interesting. She knew who her final was going to be. She thought Eric was into her too much. If she knew the audience was such a fan of Peter, because as we know, when she chose Brian, everyone was like, oh no, you made the wrong choice. And she's like, what? No, I make the choice. You don't tell me I made the wrong choice by watching the show, by thinking a certain way. And then she had that follow with Peter on live TV. It was a fun one, folks. All right, here we go. We've got the Raven Gates storyline, which was a big one here. This is a big one, folks. This is very odd. So everyone knows, or you might not know, but there was a feud with Rachel and Raven, and no one really knew what went down. No one talked about it, and here's what Rachel has to say. Rachel Lindsay wrote about how beautifully surprised she was by the friendship she made on season 21, but noted what aired didn't do our camaraderie justice. She claimed that producers organized many of the chats among the women, gathering contestants who they believe will provide the right reasons to specific questions to shape their desired narrative. Raven Gates was one of the contestants Lindsay bonded with during filming. The duo even exchanged notes through producers after Lindsay learned she was going home before the final week. But the pair have since had an infamous falling out, as she stated in interviews before. Lindsay promised Gates that she would never publicly share why they ended their friendship, other than to say, I found myself in a situation where I felt the need to protect and remove myself. These are the only details I'm going to provide. So she didn't really say much, but this is what she said. She claims how their first interaction with Raven went this way. During their time on season 21, Rachel Lindsay wrote that Gates kept a journal that she read about aloud, her first impressions of the group. So Raven had a journal. She read it aloud. So I guess this could be confirmed by others. It's not being denied. We know that. She wrote, Rachel, she has black skin. What the F? who says that stuff? Not only do you think it, but you actually say it out loud for people to hear. And she seems nice, Rachel Lindsay wrote, adding that she gave Raven Gates the benefit of the doubt because she's from Arkansas, which, is to say, she's given her the benefit of the doubt that those statements, as ignorant as they were to Rachel, hey, maybe what you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like what else can you say other than maybe you're from a town that hasn't seen a black person before, and that exists, or you might not have had whatever. Drama with Lee and Kenny. Lee's in the center, Kenny's on the right. It didn't, and as we know, this ended on a 2-on-1 date, and it was really ugly because Lee would get under Kenny's skin and say things, and Kenny'd be like, really? You almost think if that was in any other situation, like at a bar, it would have been a fight. You almost think that, like, this is not, it was ugly, folks. And this was before Rachel never knew of Lee's tweets. So as this was playing out to the audience, we have all seen Lee's tweets. So before I read this, we'll cut over here. The Bachelorette racist, sexist tweets surfaced from contestant on ABC show. And there was a million of them, like I said, a slew of alleged tweets comparing the NAACP to the KKK and a bunch about feminists being ugly, and it's just kind of one thing after another. Lee Garrett was a singer songwriter from Nashville. Just a lot of different things. We don't need to. We've done enough videos about them. He did apologize at the Men Tell All. He's kind of pressed on it, but he did apologize, which is a start, I guess, to at least acknowledge it. Whether it was apologizing because he was called out, and which sometimes is what needs to happen. Some people go, "Oh, that person only apologized because they were called out." Well, our brain, we have a nervous system, right? So when we touch something that's hot, it burns, and we go, "Ow, don't do that. Don't touch that. Ow." And there's a lot of ignorance that exists out there. And sometimes until you're being shamed and called out for it, you might have existed in your own pocket of community that didn't realize your actions. I give people grace and compassion for coming from those places because I do know they exist. Now, not everyone is as kind as I am with that, but I do know they exist, and I let people learn from them and try to move forward. I don't know if that is what happened with him, but it's a good idea for all of us to try to do that. Versus, we kind of live in a world right now where rather than moving on, we're kind of like almost shamed for flip-flopping. No. If you learn that something you do is problematic, learn about it and try to move forward. Don't have to double down. Well, no, no. Like, if you I've made fun of people before that I then realize that's not the brand that is higher energy. That's not the brand that is good for the soul. And by brand, I mean, like, is that where you want to go in life, where you're just making fun of everybody? Or can we like fight the man and punch up and make fun of the system that is keeping us down? You know what I mean? I don't know. Is that worth a national anthem? Maybe it is. All right, here we are, folks. Vote for me. Drama with Lee Garrett and Kenny. It didn't take long for Lee Garrett to emerge as a villain in the mansion, but what Lindsay didn't know during production was the offensive and racist tweets that were discovered while the show was airing. Never in my wildest dreams did I foresee the franchise casting a racist on my season. In the same essay, Rachel Lindsay opened up about her connection with King, but explained how things went off track when Kenny King allowed Lee to get under his skin. She claimed producers wouldn't allow her to confront the two men during a heated argument. She also noted that she didn't give a flip about Lee, but producers insisted that he stay and made her take both contestants on a 2-on-1 date. I mean, you almost think this would be worth firing anyone involved if they were able to prove, which they won't because they have the Bachelor, they're airtight. You don't just get to audit their notes, right? Their proprietary dramatic blend is not being revealed, much like Coke has their formula locked in a vault in Atlanta, Georgia. The proprietary blend of toxicity that exists in the Bachelor production team is safely stored in a vault. But if you weren't able to crack that, and if you were able to see, Lee's tweets with a circle, Rachel Lindsay pointing to it, 2-on-1 date, people's heads would be torn off because we don't need that in this world. We need, people coming together. But either way, it was a teachable moment. She noted that she didn't give a flip about Lee, and the producers insisted they do a 2-on-1. I cried because I was imagining how later The black contestants I sent home early would watch Lee go at it with Eric and Kenny and think to themselves, why did Rachel let him stay week after week but eliminate me, she wrote. Without naming names, Lindsay also wrote that producers made her give Lucas waboom, that guy, remember him, a rose, referring to him as the contestant with the annoying catchphrase I refuse to repeat. According to Rachel Lindsay, the most egregious mistake producers made on her season, however, was choosing men who did not actually date black women. She explained that while she had a diverse cast, she felt several of the suitors, namely Will, were not interested in dating a black woman. And again, that's something that, it's a dogfight being the lead of a show. You don't know what to expect. You have Katie Thurston going in thinking she's very media savvy with Reddit and different organizations, and then they just chew her up, they churn her out, they spit her out, and then she's like, Jesus Christ. You got villains that come on the show that think they're funny, and all of a sudden we showed the ugly side of them. And what you realize is, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And metaphorically, Rachel Lindsay gets on the show, and she doesn't know anything about Lee. She doesn't know she's keeping guys on that have all these problematic tweets and getting rid of other guys. Like, you only know what they show you, and they hold a lot of information back, so you're not able to use a lot of your natural intuition to figure things out. But fascinating book. It's available now. You can go buy it. And also, I wanted to give a shout out. So go get the Rachel Lindsay book, but also How to Win the Bachelor, The Secret to Finding Love and Fame on America's Favorite Reality Show by Chad and Lizzie, the creators of the Game of Roses podcast. We're fans of them. They're good people. They've been on my show. And this book is also on sale, so get both your Bachelor books. Chad's a best-selling author, journalist, screenwriter, and podcast host. He's written several novels. Lizzie is a comedic television writer and author. Credits include NBC's Bad Judge, Emmy-nominated half-hour NBC series The Good Place. So they're both very talented, and they've got a hit podcast called Game of Roses. You might have listened to it. You might be fans. And their book, How to Win the Bachelor, is out, so you can go check that out. All right, and hey, they didn't pay me to say that. We just got to support each other, and yeah, definitely. Put your money where your mouth is and go support Rachel with a nice book sale there. Let her get that money. All right, folks, I'm going to be going live today on the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I don't know the exact time. It's 8:20 as I record this right now, probably around 11 a.m. I have to go to the bank and do some stupid stuff that I was trying to get accomplished yesterday, more errands to run. But sometime midday, I'm going to be doing a Patreon live stream for as little as $5 a month. You can join the Patreon and see behind-the-scenes content as we discuss complex topics, build the thumbnails, prepare the videos that we then air here today, so you can be a part of that scene if you want to work with Dave. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for being so kind. Thanks for having my back. I appreciate you guys out there. We'll talk to you. Bye.